Hey guys, so today we're going to make one last video before you have your quiz at the end of this week. We are going to be talking about tables, graphs, and the constant of proportionality. A lot of this is going to be a review, so you should be well versed on it by the time you take your quiz this week. So just to review, the graph of a proportional relationship is a straight line that passes through the origin, and the origin is the point that is at 0, 0, 0. So when both your x value and your y value are 0, if the line goes straight through that point, that is one indication that your graph is proportional. So you won't always have a table when you're looking at these. Sometimes you will only have a graph, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Okay, so let's just practice this. So this is number 1 on your sheet. You need to determine if the relationship shown at the table is proportional. Then you are going to graph each point on the coordinate plane and connect it with a straight line. You're going to continue your points through the x-axis. So first, let's look at this table. To find out if something is proportional, we divide y divided by x and see if each answer is the same if we have that constant of proportionality. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 5 divided by 10 is, of course, 2. And 10 divided by 5. And 12 divided by 6 is 2. Is this proportional? Yes. Our constant of proportionality. Remember, to find the constant of proportionality, you divide y divided by x to get your constant of proportionality, which means our equation is going to be y equals k times x, and for this one, it's going to be y equals 2x. So let's go ahead and graph this now. When our x value is 2, our y value is 4. When our x value is 3, our y value is 6. You should be graphing this along with me. When it's 4, we're at 8. 5 is 10. And 6 is 12. And then I'm going to do my best to make these lines straight, but I'm working with this, with my tablet thing, so it's a little bit difficult to do. But it should go through the origin in a straight line because it is proportional. So pause your video here, and I want you to try number 2 on your own. See if there is a constant of proportionality. If there is, then that means that your table is proportional. Write down the equation if there is one, and then graph your table on the graph. Okay, so let's see here if this graph is proportional. And if it is, we're going to write our equation, and then we're going to graph it. So 2 divided by 3, when you divide that out, as a decimal is 0.66 repeating. As a fraction, it would be 2/3. 4 divided by 6, if you divide that out, is 0.66 repeating. 6 divided by 9 is 0.66 repeating. And 8 divided by 12 is 0.66 repeating. Is this proportional? Yes. Our constant of proportionality, I'm going to write it as a fraction. I'm going to round it so that I'm not using the repeating bar. That's okay to do. Our equation would be y equals k times x. In this case, it would be y equals 2/3. That's a parentheses, so we can multiply, times x, or it could be y equals 0.67 x. Now let's go ahead and graph it. If our x value is 3, then our y value is 2. If our x value is 6, then our y value is 4. If our x value is 9, then our y value is 6. And if our x value is 12, then our y value is 8. And you can see, we connect the dots, we have a straight line that passes through the origin. So this is a proportional relationship. It is a graph that is proportional. So pause the video here and try number 4 on your own, just like we did in the last 2 examples. Okay, so the cost of renting video games from Games Incorporated is shown in the table. Determine whether the cost is proportional to the number of games rented by graphing it on the coordinate plane. So this time it is not asking you to find the constant of proportionality. It's just asking you to graph it and then determine if it is proportional just by looking at the graph. So remember, we're looking for a straight line. And we want it to go through the origin. So let's graph. When our x value is 1, our y value is 3. When our x value is 2, our y value is 5. When our x value is 3, our y value is 7. And when our x value is 4, our y value is 9. So if we connect these dots, we do have a straight line, but it does not go through the origin. So this is not proportional. I don't know why this pen is being weird. This is not proportional because it does not go through the origin. It is a straight line, but it does not go through the origin. All right, pause video here and try number 6 on your own. All right, so we're going to be looking at finding the constant of proportionality from just a graph. Sometimes you won't always have a table. So you need to understand how to find that k value when you're just looking at a graph. The constant of proportionality is always the point where x equals 1, where k is the constant of proportionality. So we're always going to use k to represent our constant of proportionality. Sometimes you might see it as m. Either way, it's just a variable that's standing in for that constant number. Additionally, you can find the constant of proportionality by finding the ratio of your y value divided by your x value for any point on that proportional line. So as long as that line is straight and it goes to the origin, you can take any point on that line and divide y divided by x to get your constant of proportionality. So let's try it. Okay, so for this one, there are, remember, 2 ways to do this. The constant of proportionality is whatever your y value is when your x value is 1. So on this one, it's really easy to see. When our x value is 1, our y value is 2. So the constant of proportionality is 2. And that's all it takes when you're looking at a graph. Additionally, you can divide 4 divided by 2. You can pick any point on that line and divide and get your constant of proportionality. 4 divided by 2 is, of course, 2, which means that our constant of proportionality is 2. Our equation for this graph would look like y equals 2x. We're going to try it one more time. This time the points will not be labeled with their values. So we're going to have to figure it out on our own, which is not really that hard. So, all right, so let's look at this graph. So we can look and say we can look right here and see, try to figure out what our y value is if our x value is 1. However, this isn't going through an exact location, so I'm not going to look. It looks like it's 1/2. It looks like it's halfway between the 1 and the 0. But I'm not going to say for sure just by eyeballing it unless I know for positive. What I am going to do is look at this point, and I'm going to divide the y value divided by the x. So at this point, if I go over here, this is my y value, and this is my x value. So if I do y divided by x, my y is 1, my x is 2. It is 1/2, which, as I know, is a decimal, is 0.5. So my equation for this proportional line would be y equals 1/2 times x, or y equals 0.5 x. Either way, totally fine. Okay, so that's really all that there is to it. We're going to be talking a lot about constant proportionality, writing equations in that same form where it's y equals kx, finding that constant proportionality, writing equations, and then looking at it with both tables and graphs. And that's going to be basically what's on your quiz. All right, guys, get working on your tasks. You need to have all 6 tasks completed as quickly as